Hi, I'm Izzy, and you are watching FigLeaf.Fit. In this episode, we are having an interview. It's an interview with a yoga teacher, and this is part of my Yogi Talks series. Today, I will be interviewing Clara, and Clara is a yogi who really likes to meet people where they're at and provide yoga classes for those who maybe doesn't want the typical yoga talk and they really want that beginner's authentic experience. I hope you enjoy this interview as we really dive into what it is people want and need in a yoga class, and really getting to know Clara pretty well.
Oh, Clara, let's get a little info about you, your life, and also as a yoga teacher.
All right. Well, I like long walks on the beach. Actually, I do like long walks on the beach.
Who doesn't?
Come to think of it, my family. So I have a husband and a son, and we went to Cape Hatteras for a family vacation, and a dog, very important member of the family. And I got it in my head that I wanted to do a nice long beach hike. So I leash up the dog, and we went and visited the lighthouse. And we were staying 8 or 10 miles away. And there was a route that you could take, just down the beach. It's an island. So from the lighthouse, I had my family leave me there, me and the dog, and we spent the rest of the afternoon taking a long walk down the beach. It was great until it wasn't. Got to the point that it was just so much wind and so much churning through the soft sand because a lot of people fish. And it's a beach where you can drive on, so they would drive up and set up their long poles to fish, and so you'd be walking on the hard pack, which is pretty easy, and then you'd get to one of these setups with fishing, and so you'd have to go up the beach through that soft, like churning around their little fish camp, and then back down to the hard pack and up and down the beach. So we probably logged more than the actual 8 linear miles because we were doing the zigzag. So I was joking when I said I like long walks on the beach, but I guess I actually do.
It's like mall walking. You hit all the coves.
Yes. but no. So I primarily am an actor, and I describe it as acting. If you think of my career like a stool, you have primarily actor. That's the seat of my career, and then I also teach acting. That's a pretty logical thing to do.
Yeah.
And then I also do some photography, and then, which is not what we're talking about here today, and then yoga teaching, which is the other sort of the tri-legged stool, the three-legged stool of my career. So the acting feeds the yoga, and the yoga feeds the acting, right? Because the yoga provides me with a way to stay in contact with that moment of. Yoga provides me a really good method to get into that present moment, which is really what acting is about. I mean, it's exactly what we teach in yoga class, which is being present in the moment. It's just that as an actor, I'm being present in the moment, pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah.
But there's this whole process that you go through as you're developing this character, and you're still, at the end of the day, in that present moment. So the practice of yoga certainly feeds into being able to do that as an actor.
Definitely.
And having that technique already just sort of in my blood, and then the acting feeds back on the yoga. There's this sort of like creativity, and there's this inner exploration that you're doing as an actor, and so then being able to take some of those questions and some of those concerns or issues or whatever then to the mat and kind of work them out through the asana practice and the meditation and mindfulness aspect. I find that it kind of feeds in on one another. So while I always consider myself first an actor, that I have been doing yoga for so long, and then eventually got my certification to teach. It just seemed like such a natural progression, because of course acting is peaks and valleys. You have busy times and you have not so busy times, and so I don't know any actor who doesn't have something else that they're feeding underneath that current.
And the same with yoga, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Every yoga teacher needs something else that they're doing as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm an actor who teaches yoga. And then I did my certification. So I taught yoga when my son was a baby. I took my first yoga teaching job, and this was before certification was the norm.
Oh yeah.
So they were just beginning, like yoga Yoga Alliance wasn't just beginning, but it was just beginning to kind of be a thing that you needed to be certified. And they were having weekend certifications at the time. You could go and get your certification.
Oh, they still
in a
have
weekend.
them. They still
Do they
have
really?
them. Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's what I say, like with gym yoga.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of just one weekend yoga certification, and then all the yoga teachers are at the gyms.
Yeah.
They think they're a yoga teacher, and it's not quite the same. So that's why I always tell people, I'm like, ask your yoga teacher where they got their certification.
Asheville Yoga Center. Because when my child was a baby, and I really enjoyed teaching yoga, and I wanted to pursue certification, but because of the acting portion of my career, committing to a 9-month or a full year's worth of yoga teacher training, where you have these designated weekends, and if you miss, you
gotta wait for the next cycle.
And so that didn't fit into the acting career component, and then with a baby, in an out of town or out of country immersion was just not an option. So fast forward to 2018. Actually, it was 2017. I was kind of like, what am I doing messing around? I have wanted to be doing this for how many years? So I finally just started doing some research, and I couldn't believe the explosion of yoga teacher trainings that were like stateside and affordable, and at times that I could work into my schedule. So that's what I did. I did some research, and I found a handful of programs that fit into my schedule and my budget. And then part of what was really important to me when I sought out my training was having a really rigorous component of anatomy.
Yes.
Because I knew from having taught yoga before that that's really where I needed a little extra oomph. I mean, there were other components of training that were important as well, but I really wanted a strong anatomy component. And so Asheville certainly had that. And I also was really attracted to the fact that they pull from a lot of different yoga traditions. So it wasn't all just one lineage, and I thought that was extraordinarily helpful. And even after having gone through it, it's like I can't imagine not doing a yoga teacher training that pulls from many different lineages, because I just feel like I am so much more enriched by that information. Even though, for example, I'm not somebody who practices Kundalini on the regular. I am so grateful for the opportunity to have had that Kundalini training and have a better understanding of what that means.
Yeah.
Because then when I'm talking to somebody about yoga, and they're talking about what they might want from a yoga class, I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe you should try, because I've had experience with it, So that was really beneficial. So that's how I ended up in Asheville. Side bonus is it's a beautiful town. There's amazing hiking and camping, and so I just enjoyed being there, and I'm continuing my 500-hour training there. So I did the 200-hour in 2018 at one of their immersions, and then kind of immediately jumped into 500 and have been focusing on a lot of therapeutic applications of yoga and restorative and yin. I do a lot of other things for exercise and for really getting the calorie burn or the sweat. And so when I come to yoga in my own practice, it is for that relaxing and that some of those other benefits beyond the sweat. So while some people love that, and that's great, that's not what I practice. So it's not appropriate for me to teach that.
Yeah, and there's all different styles and levels of yoga.
Yep.
Even just within, like, there's hot yoga, and then there's power yoga, there's restorative yoga, there's like just hatha yoga, there's yoga therapy, there's therapeutic yoga, so those are different. So there's so many styles, and like you mentioned, Kundalini I love, because a lot of people didn't know what Kundalini is, and it's still hard to find like a traditional Kundalini yoga teacher. So it is cool when some people can keep true to those paths. But I do feel, that a well-rounded yoga teacher is going to be aware of all the differences that's out there, because you might have someone in your class that they're just like, that wasn't for me, and you don't want to tell them, well, yoga's just not for you,
right?
You want to point them and say, well, this just isn't your yoga style.
Exactly.
And, so what was the first time you went to a yoga class?
It was back around the time of the last impeachment trial. So during the Clinton administration, it was 97, 98, I don't remember exactly. Because there was this period of time in between my first acting job, because I took a sabbatical from school, and I made an agreement with my parents that I would take a year off of school to pursue acting, because I was done. I was so done with my undergrad for a variety of reasons. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to see about trying to launch this acting career thing. But if in a year I don't really have something going, I'll go back to school and finish my degree. And like 2 weeks before I had to register, I got my first acting job.
Nice.
Paid very little. And anyway, but so there's this period of time in between that first acting job, and then after that was over, I came back and did finish my degree. So it was after that job, but before I finished my degree. So it was sometime in the mid to late 90s that I went to my first class, and there was one yoga school at all, one place to go to take yoga in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I was living. And it was in this little basement in a downtown building. And I remember my first yoga mat was purple, and I used it for years. Like, it didn't occur to me that I could go get a new yoga mat, even after it started to, like, you go into down dog and you're sliding both directions. And it's like, I think at some point I might be able to go buy myself a new yoga mat, because you couldn't just walk into TJ Maxx and buy yoga mats then.
Right.
Back in the dark ages.
Or Lululemon, or
exactly. Well, and yeah, what we wore to yoga class was, it didn't look at all like what you would see people wearing to yoga class now in a traditional or in a standard yoga studio. People just kind of wore like what you wear to the gym, like comfortable clothes to move in.
Yeah, it was like sweatpants, and I've even taught classes with people in jeans, like a very impromptu, like community class. And they're like, I'm so sorry, I don't have yoga clothes, and I'm like, trust me, like, you don't have to have yoga clothes on to do yoga.
Actually, I just shot a video doing yoga in a business suit with high heels. Yeah. Because it's like, there are ways to get the benefits of yoga without like putting on your Lululemons. And
I wear stretchy business pants, and I will actually go teach my yoga classes in my clothes that I wear to work. And like, people are fine with it. Like, because I can still do yoga. Like, it's totally fine.
Well, and it's nice too, because a lot of business clothes now have like, they're that stretch fabric, so you can get away with it.
It totally works.
Oh, it was really funny. I was trying to do something in plank, where you reach out the opposite arm and opposite leg, and like with the blazer on, it was like T-Rex trying to do that, so it's a disaster. Falling over, I'm like, we're cutting this one out of the video. but yeah, so the first yoga class, because there was just the one school, I didn't know there were different styles of yoga. I thought it was just yoga. I now know it was an Iyengar school, and so we spent 6 weeks pretty much exclusively working on down facing dog.
That's so Iyengar style.
And I said that to one of my teacher trainings, teachers in teacher training. I mentioned this. I was like, we spent 6 weeks in down dog, and he just laughed. He's like, typical of Iyengar. But we did do a couple of other things, but mostly it was 6 weeks, the whole class on one pose. And now I think a new yoga student walking in and doing the same pose for 6 weeks.
That's yoga school style. It's not like just a yoga class style.
I don't know that they would have many people returning if they were doing, maybe they would, I don't know, but I think in general people are looking for something a little bit different when they're first getting into yoga, at least. So I kind of started super nerdy on alignment, and then went from there to Anyasara, which is another super like alignment based thing, but it also made me really aware of, which is why I wanted the anatomy component. Like, we need to stack our bones in a place that is safe, and then knowing though that some of those cues that I was getting didn't necessarily feel right, and I wasn't being able to put myself into some of these shapes. It's like, I'd like to know more about what's going on here.
It was kind of like men leading men and women coming into the men's class. Because that was one thing, one of my yoga teachers, she was like, we can adapt yoga for women and hips.
Yes.
Especially after you've had a baby, your hips just aren't the same as a man's hips.
Exactly.
So like knowing that there are adaptations and there are modifications, and some yoga teachers are aware of that and some aren't.
Right.
Normally us moms are a little bit loose on adaptations
Yes.
when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so your yoga style is a nice incorporation of a lot of things. I love that, and the anatomy richness. How do you think that you teach a little bit different than some other teachers that you've been to recently?
Well, I call what I teach feel good stretchy yoga, so I don't try to put a specific name on it, specifically because people who have not practiced yoga before don't know what all of these names are. So I try to describe, like, this is the experience of my class. We do stuff that makes you feel good, that's kind of stretchy to stretch out the kinks. So that's what I strive to accomplish by calling it that, as opposed to using which really is hatha yoga.
Yeah.
But if I've never been to a yoga class, calling something hatha yoga might be a barrier to trying it out, because it's like, oh, what does that even mean? How do I say that? So, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, no, and I totally get that, because I've got one of my classes I just call Yoga for Body Awareness.
Yeah.
And I volunteered at one of the AIDS centers for a while, and they refused to call it yoga because it just scared them so bad. So we called it mat moves.
Oh, well, all right.
And they came up with that, and that was
yeah.
what they felt comfortable with. So I love that, like, just meeting them where they're at. Like,
yes,
it's still yoga. It's going to be a slightly different variation of yoga, but it's meeting them where they're at, and knowing that that is available. That there are teachers that are willing to meet you.
Yes. Oh, you were saying what's different. I was like,
Yeah.
there was an actual question in there that I was supposed to answer, and I just went off on my very own tangent.
That's okay.
So,
so not using the yoga words necessarily, but still teaching yoga.
Yes, exactly. And then there's also the component that, because I'm an actor, and because I see, the yoga feeding my creativity and the creativity feeding my yoga, I also have an additional component beyond, like, this feel-good stretchy yoga, this purely physical experience of the yoga poses. Then, as we know, as yoga practitioners, there's also this mindfulness, this meditation, this heart, body, soul component. There's the body, and then there's the heart and soul aspect of it, the mind and the mental and emotional aspects of it as well. And so as I move into that, I'm really looking to help people understand how we can do these practices in our daily life, because kind of the thesis of my practice is when we have more space mentally and emotionally, when we feel at ease in our body, we have that capacity to be more creative. Whether that is we're writing the next great American novel, or figuring out what we're going to serve our family for dinner, or any sort of creative expression. I mean, that might come through in, I recently had to get some new curtains for the house. That is a creative endeavor, and we all have to figure out, we all need bedding and some basics. Even if you don't feel like I am a person who expresses themselves through my household goods, there is still some amount of creative thought that goes into making these decisions that we make every day. And so when we feel more grounded and more present and more easeful in our movement, then we're able to have that space to expand and think more creatively.
Yeah, and like I even noticed that one thing that transformed with me practicing yoga and the meditation that comes with yoga was I started noticing when I would pull up to go shopping and realize I had nothing that I really needed to go buy.
Yes.
But I was just wanting to go do something, and I was like, oh, what is this?
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm going shopping just to go shopping, and I'm just searching for something that's going to make life better. And I was like, no, like, that's not what I need to do, because I don't need to spend money.
Exactly. Well, and the other thing is, when my son was really young, so we don't have really any family in town. There's one cousin, but it's not like we've got grandma that we can just call at the last minute and, like, go drop the kid off, which fortunately he's old enough to be on his own now, so that makes things a little easier. But when he was a baby, there was just it was relentless, right? Because there's just so much caretaking to little wee ones.
There's no break,
And so I would go grocery shopping and consider that a break, or I would go to TJ Maxx or wherever, go shopping and find myself wandering around the aisles, sometimes buying things I didn't need. But it was because I wanted just that time away, that time to myself. And, again, through a yoga, as my yoga practice deepened, I was able to identify, like you were saying, what I'm needing is some time to myself right now. And actually walking around in a fluorescent lit store with other people who are annoying me because they're standing in my way is not terribly beneficial.
Right.
And I'm not feeling refreshed when I get home because I feel depleted after experiencing all of that busyness of being in the store. And so it's been helpful to kind of find, oh, that's actually what I need. Let me see how I can do that. So
yeah, and that's where, like, I hear a lot of yoga teachers will be like, take the yoga off the mat.
Yeah.
And that's what they're referring to as this, like, awareness in these, like, little subtle changes that are, like, huge, but they're very subtle that start showing up in your life.
Yeah. Well, and another one is experienced it today. As I mentioned when I arrived, a couple of minutes late. My son had this huge school project that we're working on, and the later the day went and the more it wasn't working, I could feel myself like getting super irritated about it. And so being able to say, all right, I just said something that was not, clearly it was coming from a place of great frustration. I need to take a second and figure out where's my problem, because I don't want to put my frustration on him when he's not the source of the problem.
Yeah.
This situation is frustrating. So let me take a breath so I can communicate with him in a loving way so that we don't continue to escalate this frustration. So that's something I find, particularly with a teenager in the house, very beneficial to taking the yoga off the mat.
Yeah, because I mean, we're still building our mindfulness muscle
Yep.
through yoga or through meditation. It's still a mindfulness practice, so it builds up that mindfulness muscle.
Exactly.
Great. So, what do you think is the number one yoga assumption or like yoga comment? Like, you know, like me, like I'll be like, I'm a yoga teacher. So like,
Yes.
and then what do people say when you say that?
Oh, I can't really even touch my toes. That's just for all those skinny little 20-year-olds. And so that's part of the reason I'm very deliberate in my marketing. The pictures I take, I don't do fancy yoga poses. Down dog's probably about as fancy as I'm going to get in any of the pictures I post on social media or whatever, because we have not done a good job as a yoga industry letting folks know that you don't have to already touch your toes to come to yoga class.
Yes.
And so, I hear a lot, it's like this whole, I'm not young, I'm not skinny, I can't do it already. Well, of course you can't, It's like, I just started taking ballroom classes. And although I have dance in my background, and I've had a couple of ballroom classes here and there, this week we're working on the tango. I don't already know the tango, totally stepped on my partner's feet. But I'm not gonna get any better at it unless I keep going to class. I'm not gonna ever even know the tango unless I go. So similarly with yoga, we're not ever going to be able to reach the toes if we don't cultivate that practice of making our body move in that direction. And some of us may have bodies that we don't ever get to that pose, that what it looks like on the yoga journal. I certainly I know very familiar with where some of my restrictions are, and physically, like just how my bones are put together or how my life experience has impacted how I can move. Like I had surgery in my right ankle, so I don't have enough flexion in my foot this way to do like in my down dog. My heels do not touch the floor, and they won't ever, because that heel just won't.
And that's not even the purpose of down dog,
no, it's
right?
Not. No, it's not.
So there's a lot of assumptions that you have to be good at yoga.
Yeah.
And I if you want to look at what I teach, I'm not good at yoga.
No.
There's no, I can't do the splits
either
way, this way or that way.
Yeah.
I can't do a handstand by myself. I have to use the wall still. And I've been doing yoga for 12 years. Now, granted, I'll have ebbs and flows of when I can do a little bit more and do a little less, but generally, I'll do yoga each day and I'm like, ooh, that's tight, or that's new, and that's the point of yoga. Is so that we get that alignment and we get to know where we're sticking all of our junk, the issues in the tissues. We're working out the emotions that we've got stuck in that shoulder or that hip, or just the bad habits of, I say Sheldon styling. Every time you sit on the couch, you sit in the same exact spot. So
Sheldon styling.
It's the same spot. That's my spot. So being able to work out all those kinks and finding out what's interesting, and shoot, I've even been in a pose and I'm like, I don't like this pose, and there's no reason why, and then I'll lay down and I'm like starting to want to cry, and it's like releasing emotion. So it's okay to cry in yoga class too. Most of us yoga teachers are completely prepared for that.
Yes.
But the students aren't, so
yeah,
I think that's a good thing to mention. So we talked a little bit about how yoga has influenced and like shaped some things in your life, but like, what are some big ways that yoga has like really significantly changed your life?
Really just being able to accept what my body is able to do.
Yeah.
You know, I had a couple of years where, it's gonna get super technical, one piriformis was super cranky, and then we got that sorted, and then the other piriformis guy was super cranky. So the piriformis is a deep hip muscle, and it can create pain that maybe shoots down the leg or up the back, or just like a sticky feeling as you try to move your hips out, even just to kind of like cross over your legs, or to sit, you know, just kind of like hanging out like this. It can just feel really sticky and uncomfortable. It can hurt to sit, it can hurt to stand. So that constant practice of returning to the mat, saying, where am I today? Which, as I go through and see, okay, well, I'm noticing that, for example, in January, I've had to do a lot of computer work. I'm getting a lot of things set up business-wise for the rest of the year. So there's just been a lot of sitting at the computer, and noticing that frustration that comes up when, because I'm doing a lot of sitting and working at the computer, and I'm not doing the workouts that I normally do, and I'm not doing as much yoga, physical yoga, as I normally do, seeing how some of those parts of my body are getting a little sticky, and also we're always aging. And so noticing how the aging process is working itself out in my own body, learning to just be okay with that on the mat, then teaches me how to be okay with that when I meet it in real life, which is not to say I've mastered this skill.
No.
But it's allowed me to practice that skill.
It's a practice.
Yeah, which it's so much easier to be softer to yourself when you can accept those things without judging them.
Yes.
Man, that's so hard.
That is probably one of the biggest things for me as well, is like learning not to judge things.
Yeah.
Because like judgment is so incorporated into the human tendencies, but also our culture.
Yes, especially right now.
Yeah, and just like learning to not judge, like even though that sounds like something so simple, like that's huge. It's like a light switch on and off.
Yes,
like,
and it is a practice.
It is.
Like, we're not sitting here floating, you know, in cross-legged position because we're so ethereal that we've overcome judgment. No, I come up against it all the time. But, well, even yesterday we were doing some pictures. I had my husband taking some pictures to use for some social media posts throughout February, and, super judgmental of, no, we're not, let's delete that. Oh, I look awful in that, you know, so there is still lots of judging happening, but learning to recognize it for what it is and being able to not let it create some of those reverberations in your life that, that can negatively impact your emotional state.
Oh yeah, well, and even me, I've gotten on a very good at not judging things, but because our society expects us to judge things so much, it creates other problems.
Yeah.
Like, people won't understand what I'm saying, like it'll sound like wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, that wasn't a judgment. Like, I don't mind. I'm not judging you. But they're like, it sounded judgy.
Yes. Yeah.
So even that could come about just because the cultural stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. So where do you teach? What is your business, or how does that happen?
So primarily I do limited series classes, and I rent out a space. So I very deliberately don't want to be in a yoga studio, because I want people who are intimidated by that atmosphere, because you have to be skinny, because you have to wear the right kind of clothes. In fact, somebody the other day was like, not like in yoga class where they wear those crop tops. That's not what.
Where do they do that?
I don't know. I'm like, I'm a yoga teacher and I don't wear a crop top.
No.
So I very deliberately don't want it to be in a yoga studio, and again, because it's about breaking down barriers. So in terms of the limited series classes that I rent out a space and run, it just kind of depends on the capacity that that I'm opening that up to, you know,
Yeah.
which is driven by what is the purpose of this class. So how many people belong in this class? No, I shouldn't say belong in this class, but how many people are going to be most effective for this class? You know, because at some point then it gets to be too many, depending on what the objective of the class is. So that varies in terms of where I host my classes. And then I also have workshops. And I just have a couple of rooms around town where I can rent out for workshops. So I try to run 2 workshops a month. One is like a basic intro to yoga. I call it sweatpants yoga, like come in whatever you're wearing, however your body is, come on and try it out. And we're gonna do a full practice. And then I'm gonna take any questions you have about that, and we'll go through, how can I do this? Because that didn't feel right. Okay, well, let's talk about how you can do that, because then I'll have a home practice that they can take with them. And so we go through what each of those poses are, and they have a little sheet and a little audio recording that kind of talks them through that, so they've got something to take home. Because time is the other thing people run into. They don't feel like they've got time, or they really don't. I mean, again, as the parent, I only have one. I know my limitations. I only have one kid. But he goes to a martial arts class 4 days a week and a piano lesson 1 day a week. There's not a lot of time for me to go do things in the evenings running him around. So time is a real issue. It's helpful to have something that you can do at home. So so I do sweatpants yoga, and then I do sort of where yoga and creativity meet. So we have a creative practice that varies month to month, and then so we do a full yoga practice, and then we have something creative we do. And that's a lot of it is about just exploring creativity and giving ourselves an opportunity to try something new. Nice. And also kind of creating a community of people who kind of want to foster that in themselves. But then I also do privates, like private groups, one-on-ones, and then, you know, anything from a wedding shower or a baby shower to like a conference that's downtown at, you know, at one of the conference hotels or whatever. You know, if they want to have yoga offer for their participants one morning or something. So that's sort of allow for popping in various places throughout the week. So, but that's offer those 2 monthly classes or workshops consistently, mostly, and then limited run series that kind of pop up through the year, and then but regularly it's these privates. So and then working to cultivate some relationships with businesses to offer pay what you can classes, so people can come in, just give it a whirl, and then hopefully help that business bring in people at a time maybe they wouldn't have, or
I've done that myself too. I mean, it's great because you get to build relationships.
Yes,
so it's really nice.
Yeah, so it's like popcorn, and you know, it pops up here, it pops up there, and a lot of that is because I'm molding it around the busy seasons in my acting career and freedom and other pursuits.
Freedom. I know, I find that too. I get a lot of people, they're like, where do you teach? And they expect, because you're a yoga teacher, that you teach a regular class or multiple classes every day. And most yoga teachers, I think, are working pretty much as a contractor almost. And so for us to do that and not have subs and you know, support and all of that stuff, and try to do everything ourselves, like that asks a lot from a yoga teacher. And it's a lot of sacrifice. So it is so much healthier, I think, for us yoga teachers to do that, to like run a series, get a commitment, because most people aren't as committed as they expect you to be. And like it's a lot of like traveling around, so like the gas, the time travel, the advertising,
because you're an entrepreneur, you're a one-person business.
A one-person business, and like I don't think a lot of people really realize what goes all into that. Because that's one of the things I hear is people are like, why is yoga so expensive, or why does that cost so much? And it's like, really, like the amount of time put into it, sometimes your yoga teacher is making minimum wage.
Like, or less. By the time I pay for parking. And
and then to mention, like, the yoga school is not cheap. So to get the yoga certification, and then if your yoga teacher has multiple certifications and CPR and insurance and like, these are things I think a lot of students, they don't keep in mind, because if you want a highly trained yoga teacher to keep you safe and to help you heal and to help you grow in life, like they do need to be charging a pretty decent amount. And it's like you wouldn't go to your physical therapist or your chiropractor and expect them to do it for $10 to $20. Even with insurance paying it, and we don't get insurance. Thankfully, yoga therapists are now able to charge the health savings account.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
so
really good.
But to be a yoga therapist, you have to pay $15,000 just for that additional certification. And that's a whole nother feat in itself.
There's verbiage that you are not allowed to use. You can get in serious trouble. Like if I were to say I do yoga therapy, because I do therapeutic applications of yoga, very different than yoga therapy, and they're really cracking down on people using that terminology.
And I think it's like, as I've gone through the yoga therapy program, I can see why.
It's
totally, it was way more than what I expected. And it's totally different than a therapist teaching yoga. It's different than someone teaching a therapeutic class. Like there's so many, like you're treating disease.
Yes.
So like there are many different components of that. All right. So one more question. What are your hopes and dreams for this year?
Well, because I just got certified in 2018, and I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, I really am still in the building phase. So for 2020, I really want to get to a point where there's a nice base of people who know about me and the yoga that I offer, so that it just gets a little easier to fill those classes, and I'm able to reach out and do more with it. Because right now there is just so much marketing. It's, I feel like I'm still in launch phase, even though, it's on the one hand, I want to say, man, I've been at it for a little over a year now. Because after yoga teacher training, the way the immersion worked, we had to go off and do some student teaching and some additional research and hand in our reports and the reporting back of the student teacher training or the student teaching and all of this. So it was actually several months after my training in 2018 that I got certified. So, and then a couple more months because I immediately started 500 before I really started getting into teaching. So it's like, wow, it's really just kind of been over a year. So again, trying not to judge.
I think that's a good time to really start diving into it though. From my experience, like when you get into that 500 level, I feel like is when you're really into it. Like I think sometimes that 200 hour that's just like skimming it.
Oh yeah. And the more I teach and the more I take in the 500 course, it's like, man, we're just like kissing the material in 200. And I just, when I got my 200 hour certification, I taught a couple of things, just like little one-offs, little pop-ups. And I was like, I feel like I need more. I just need more information. So I immediately signed up for a handful of anatomy centric classes, and then also meditation and restorative style classes. So yoga nidra and some others. Yoga nidra, which is basically like nap time.
It's yoga sleep. I'm like, if you can get to one of those classes, that's sort of the juicy stuff. And it's powerful. Like yoga nidra and just yoga in general. So the only thing that will heal PTSD is movement and yoga nidra.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I mean, that yoga nidra class was intense.
Well, and you're like,
there's a lot of science involved in it.
You feel it afterwards, because I'm also a hypnotherapist.
Oh, okay.
I would always joke before I did my hypnotherapy certification, I would say yoga nidra is the original hypnotherapy. And then when I did hypnotherapy certification, I realized, oh my gosh, yoga nidra really is the original hypnotherapy. Because it really is, and we're taught that you can go through hypnotherapy the same path as yoga nidra.
Oh, okay.
Or there's another quicker path. But yoga nidra is just a little bit longer, and it takes a different path, but you still get to the same place.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty
That's
cool.
really cool. Yeah.
But yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It was so good to learn about you and see how your business is growing and all of that stuff. And like here with these videos, I'm hoping to really get more yoga teachers on here so that we can talk about yoga, break down the barriers,
Yes.
but also support each other as yoga teachers.
Yeah.
Because I'm finishing up my MBA right now.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and so I see, and that part of that was because of yoga. Like I really want to help this yoga community grow, because I see so many like potholes.
Yes.
that we keep hitting.
Yeah.
And because most of us were not taught business.
Yeah.
With yoga. And so
it's generally not a component of yoga teacher training.
Yeah, and so like my one tip that I just want to end with, if any yoga teachers are watching, is to like really try to see if you can partner up with 2 or 3 people and create a little community within yourself, just so you can support each other. Because even if you need a sub, or you all can just help promote each other and be like a little dream team.
Yeah. Especially if you can find somebody with complementary styles, whether that is you do a similar style and a similar student, and then you're like the Wonder Twins, or maybe you have something that complements the other, and so then you're able to offer a workshop that gives people the yin and the yang, literally.
Co-teaching is amazing. If you've never co-teached a class or been to a co-teach class, it's so awesome when you have like 2 or 3 yoga teachers walking around and helping and holding that energy in that space for you. But too, just to also just like say like, hey, does this sound good?
Yes. Yeah.
Or what does the wording on this? Like, I don't know if it's right, or like, what would you suggest? Like, it's just so nice to have a community, and I think we forget about that. And that's one of the points where we want people to come to a yoga class, right? Is to be in community.
Exactly.
And so us yoga teachers also need to like remember to be a part of a community as well.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next time on our next interview with a yoga teacher.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching Interview with a Yoga Teacher, part of the Yoga Talks series. I hope you enjoyed this and you are looking forward to more. If so, please subscribe and hit the little bell so that you get a notification whenever these videos are released. You can visit me or my business at FigLeaf.Fitness.com. My individual services are at IzzyNally.com, and of course, you might want to experience the large, beautiful package of Balanced Goddess at balancedgoddesschat.com. I hope to see more of you, and I hope you enjoyed this. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it.